Deep in the heart of Whispering Woods lived a young badger named Billy. He wasn't like the other badgers who loved to nap and dig. Billy was curious, always exploring and jotting down mysteries in his little notebook. One sunny morning, as he gathered pine cones near the edge of a thick grove, he heard something unusual, a faint whisper, like leaves speaking in riddles. Billy's ears perked up. A mystery in the woods? He tucked his notebook into his satchel and followed the sound. The whispers grew louder as Billy stepped between two ancient oaks, their trunks twisted like coils. The air felt cooler here, and sunlight barely reached the mossy floor. A hollow wind swept past, and Billy paused. He scribbled in his notebook, "Whispers begin near old oaks. Unnatural breeze?" But instead of being scared, Billy grinned. Mysteries like this were his favorite kind. He tiptoed deeper, following the sounds that seemed to lead him further into the unknown. Billy soon came upon a small clearing surrounded by mushrooms shaped like tiny umbrellas. In the center stood a stump, with deep claw marks scratched into its bark. Billy examined them closely. "Too high for a fox, too wide for a squirrel," he murmured. He bent down to inspect the ground and found odd, triangular footprints leading away. What creature made these? He wondered. The whispers swirled again, as if inviting him to follow. As he crept along the narrow path, Billy noticed the forest around him had changed. The trees were taller here, their branches curling like arms. Strange symbols were etched into the bark, swirls, stars, and zigzags. Billy copied them into his notebook. "Old forest runes?" he guessed. Every step he took made the whispers louder, but still he saw no creature. What was making the sounds, and why were they leading him? Suddenly, a soft growl echoed through the woods. Billy froze. The trees grew denser, shadows stretched like fingers. He took a deep breath and whispered, "I am not afraid." Then he pressed on, notebook clutched tightly. The growl came again, but now it sounded less like a threat and more sad. Was something calling for help? Billy's heart thumped with both fear and curiosity. A crooked bridge appeared over a dark, sluggish stream. The wood creaked under Billy's paws as he crossed. Below, glowing eyes blinked up at him from the water, vanishing when he looked directly. On the far side of the bridge, he found another clue, a piece of thick, black fur caught on a thorn bush. He held it up to the light. "Not from any animal I know," he said aloud. The whispering grew urgent, pushing him forward. Billy stumbled into a thicket filled with violet-colored fog. The air smelled sweet and strange. He coughed, covering his nose, and stumbled out the other side into a hidden grove. At its center stood a stone circle, each pillar carved with more runes. In the middle lay a glowing blue orb. As Billy stepped closer, the whispers stopped all at once. The silence was so sudden it made his ears ring. He reached for the orb, and just as his paw touched it, the ground trembled. A low rumble filled the grove, and from behind the largest stone rose a shadowy figure, tall, horned, and cloaked in mist. Billy's fur bristled. This was the creature, the monster of Whispering Woods, spoken of only in legends. But its eyes weren't angry. They were tired, and full of sorrow. Billy took a cautious step forward. The creature didn't move. He held up his notebook and said, "I don't want to hurt you. I just want to understand." The creature's whispering voice filled the grove, not from its mouth, but from the air around them. "Help me," it said. "I am bound by old magic." Misunderstood. Feared. Billy's fear melted into sympathy. He sat down cross-legged and opened his notebook. "Tell me your story," he said gently. The creature lowered itself to the ground and began to whisper tales of ancient times. When it guarded the woods, when animals visited the stone circle to leave gifts, when it was called guardian, not monster. Billy wrote every word. The creature explained how, long ago, a spell was cast by frightened animals to trap it in mist and silence. It was never evil, only different. Billy asked, "How can I help?" The creature said, "Break the spell. Bring the forest together again." Billy knew what he had to do. He promised to return, with proof that the woods could trust once more. Billy left the grove with the blue orb in his satchel, a symbol of peace. As he retraced his steps, the whispers faded behind him. He crossed the bridge, passed the claw-marked stump, and emerged from the ancient trees, blinking in the afternoon light. The forest felt different, less heavy. He hurried home, already planning his next move. Back in his den, Billy laid out his notes and began sketching the creature's image, carefully and kindly. He wrote its history, not as a monster, but as a guardian forgotten by time. The next day, he visited the wise owl, the village elder, and shared his discoveries. The owl blinked slowly, then nodded. Perhaps it is time to remember. Word spread across the forest. Billy organized a gathering at the edge of the woods. Foxes, hedgehogs, mice, and birds all arrived, curious about the tale of the Whispering Woods. Billy stood on a stump and told them everything. At first, there was silence. Then, slowly, the creatures nodded. They agreed to follow Billy back to the grove. The forest animals walked together, their paws, claws, and wings rustling the leaves. As they entered the misty grove, the orb in Billy's paw began to glow brighter. The creature appeared, still cloaked in shadow but no longer growling. The animals gasped but didn't flee. Billy stepped forward and held the orb high. A beam of light burst from the orb, bathing the grove in gold. The mist burned away, and the creature's form shimmered, revealing not a monster, but a majestic being with antlers of silver and fur like midnight sky. Its eyes glowed gently. The forest animals stared in awe. "You were never a monster," whispered Billy. The creature bowed its head. "Thanks to you, I am free." The runes on the stones glowed once more, not with warning but welcome. The guardian's whispers turned into a song, a hum that vibrated through the trees like wind through leaves. Peace returned to the Whispering Woods. From that day on, the guardian watched over the forest once more, not from the shadows, but with open presence. Animals came to the grove to seek wisdom, leave gifts, and tell stories. And every time, they saw Billy's sketches hanging on the stones. Reminders of the day fear turned into friendship. Billy continued exploring. But now he was known as more than just a curious badger. He was the one who solved the greatest mystery of the woods. He never stopped asking questions. But he learned that sometimes, the scariest things just needed to be understood. Each season, Billy visited the guardian, who always welcomed him with a soft song and warm light. They shared stories, old and new. And as the leaves turned golden or bloomed bright, the forest thrived under their care. Billy's notebook grew thick with tales, drawings, and wisdom. He began teaching younger animals how to observe, to listen, to question. He taught them not to fear what they didn't understand, but to explore it bravely. One winter evening, Billy sat by his den, watching snowflakes drift onto the pages of a new notebook. He smiled, knowing the forest was safe and filled with wonder. And in the distance, a whisper on the wind said, "Thank you, Billy." And so, the legend of Billy the Badger spread far beyond Whispering Woods, told by squirrels in treetops and frogs in ponds. But the real Billy still wandered with a pencil behind his ear and questions in his heart. Because for Billy, the greatest adventure was not solving the mystery. It was discovering the truth hidden beneath fear and bringing light to the darkest corners of the world.